not self-paced.
I know when we go back home, he's like, I did that, I did that, I did
And
that.
quite truthfully, I've done classes with Chuck, and I've had to read Chuck's books, and I'm like,
They're deep, aren't they?
14 of these books.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not just, like, these are deep kind of books. Like, I can read, like, fiction books, you know, at my time, but this is the kind you have to have, like, no distractions and, like, focus when you read. It's one
That's
thing,
important.
you know, like, there's the books you can read and, like, kids can be yelling and you can do stuff and kind of read on the side. Yeah, this isn't that. This is, like, really focused time.
I get it.
Yeah, I would love to do it, though. I mean, I saw it and I was like, oh, man, I want to do it.
So intriguing. But then that just gives you a biblical worldview, right?
It does.
Deep biblical, so you can have a conversation.
Yeah.
That's important. All right, I'm gonna pray, you guys. I know Lynn and Hannah are coming, so we'll wait. Father, we just thank you so much for this morning. Thank you for Esther. Thank you for this little book that has such a great impact. I pray, Father, that we would know where we are as for such a time as this and where you've placed us. And I pray that we would just glean from one another this morning. In your precious name, amen. Okay, instead of, as I'm on my way here, pondering world events, maybe I should just say that, I'm talking with Ron, like, how did we get from 9/11 being Islamic Jihad to anti-Semitism on college campuses, Jewish students being afraid, like, not to the extent that they were in Germany, but that's where it started. That's the level it started at. How did we get to that?
Purely Satan.
Purely,
I think so.
purely Satan.
I know that,
Right.
I was reading about it a little bit yesterday, and they were talking about the generation 20 to 30, 20 years old to 30
20 years old to 30 years old.
That age group, when they were growing up, they did not see the Israel that we saw. And they don't even have the same connection or realization of World War II and the Holocaust.
Right.
I know that growing up, that was a big thing for my
Huge.
grandparents. You know,
Huge.
that was a fresh memory.
Corey Ten Boom was big in my family.
Yeah.
My mom and dad just,
And mine too.
wow, you
Mine
know,
too.
so,
World War II was huge.
you know, that was almost required reading in our home, so
Yes.
we all read The Hiding Place.
It's scary that they do not remember.
They don't. And almost trying to say it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because that generation that had the tattoo is dying off.
Yes.
Smart of Eisenhower to take pictures to document why he thought he needed to document this was only God. He's not that smart, none of us are. So,
Jen, I think a lot of influences out there in our world want us to all be all the same and accept everything. You're
Right, tolerant.
cast out if you don't go along with the crowd anymore.
right.
You really can't stand up. You can try to stand up for what's right, but you become a very small part of a very
Right.
small minority.
Right, and Mike Johnson being heckled yesterday at Columbia, he said, congratulations on your free speech. Because that's what it is, they have free speech just like he does, until it infringes on someone else. And then it's not free speech, that's taking away your liberty. So it's where are we for such a time as this? Why has God placed us in 2024? Why? Here, watching these things in America happen. It's just very, I hope you evaluate where you are in your community, in your family, in your church, in the people that you influence. It is not by happenstance, man. You are there for such a time as this. So rather than me tell you where is God's sovereignty in chapter 1, we're just going to go through all the way through chapter 7. That's what we're going to focus on this morning. But I don't know about you, at day 4 and 5 was like, huh? I'm not going to write a poem or a song. I can list the facts, but that's kind of boring. So, what's God's sovereignty in each chapter? God's there. Where is he? So let me look, and then let me back up scripture with saying this is how he's there. Where else in scripture do I see that he's there? So that was quite a different assignment. That was Okay, but how are you going to do this? I'm like, I don't really know. And I've done it before. And I'm like, and I just never got around to seeing what I did before. So you tell me in Esther 1, maybe get out your observation worksheet. What have you got as your title for this? Because next week we're going to come up with a book theme. As in we, not me, you. Because I usually copy yours.
Well, in Esther 1, we had the 3 banquets that were given.
Right.
We have Vashti
Right.
refusing.
Deposed. Yeah.
Yeah, refusing to come.
Right.
And then, so the edict was issued.
And then the edict. So those are good 3 things to put down, right? What nationality do we know wrote this book?
Jewish.
Why do we know that? Right.
Because of the things they included.
Good. Right. Okay, some of the things they included, like, a big one should come to your head. Who else would care about that?
Yeah. Well, who else would know? Well, I guess in the end, the heritages were revealed.
Right.
But,
Okay, that's one.
But
That's
a
one.
big point is made of it up front, and everybody doesn't know.
Right. But somebody's a Jew, and that could be a dangerous thing.
Uh-huh.
We know a Benjamite, but what else do we know about the history that's already happened to them?
The Babylon captivity and how they got there, and
Who would that matter to?
Jews. Nobody else cares.
Right. Well, the Persians don't care. I don't care that you've been in captivity for 70 years. We conquered you. I don't care.
And you know what? You just answered your own question about why the Colson Fellowship, why now?
Right.
Because nobody cares about the Jews.
Right. Which is scary.
That's true.
That's just how do you get there? So, how do you see God's sovereignty in chapter 1? Okay, we know it covers. In fact, on your observation worksheet, if you want to say how long each chapter covers, because we know the whole book covers how long?
10 years.
10 years, because this is his reign. We know the
Right.
years of his reign, okay, which is 486 to 464, but here only covers 483 to 473, okay? Only 10 years of his 22-year reign. We get focused in on there, okay? But where is God's sovereignty in this?
Well, Queen Vashti being moved out,
Right?
it's like who would have ever thought someone that powerful? She had royal blood.
Yeah, she had royal blood, which is what made King Ahasuerus a royal, because he married a royal.
So the thought that she would be moved out of that place, so that there's a space there for Esther, it's like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Thoughts, yeah.
We're like, oh, okay, that's a really bad thing. It didn't happen to Vashti. That's really bad. But it's in God's perfect timing, isn't it? Okay. What kind of a verse can you back that up with? 'Cause that's the important part. I want you to be able to apply Scripture to God's sovereignty. You see it. How do you see Scripture verify it?
Well, you can always go back to everybody's favorite chapter of Jeremiah 29.
True. That's very true. That's very true.
Because, verse 11 is taken totally out of context when
Yeah,
you
29.
read it in with why God has said this to them.
Good.
Because they are in exile.
They
because
are.
they have misbehaved. Because he has had to discipline them.
Right.
But
Right.
I know the plans I have for you.
I know that I have for you. Good. Anybody else?
Without that captivity, they wouldn't have been there. Mordecai would not have been
He wouldn't have
there.
been. That's right.
Esther would have not.
That's right. God directs you. I want you to go to Daniel, chapter 2, verse 21. Where is Daniel?
In Babylon.
In Babylon, in captivity. So he's before Esther as far as the timeline is concerned. Okay? Is he alive at this point in time? We don't think so.
I don't think so.
We don't
The
think
Jews
so.
do.
We don't think so. Who gave the king the interpretation of the dream that he wouldn't even tell the wise men what it was?
Daniel.
Right. Okay. Even the wise men go, Nobody here on earth can do that. Only the God of heaven can reveal that to you. And Daniel goes, exactly right. Exactly right. Okay? What does 2:21 say? So let me read that.
What does what?
Daniel 2:21 say.
It says, "It is he who changes the times and the epochs. He removes kings and establishes kings. He gives wisdom to wise men and knowledge to men of understanding."
So what does that tell you who determined the king right now?
God.
God. Who determined the president of the United States right now?
God.
Really?
Exactly.
I know. I know.
Go there.
But I know.
He lets us do stupid stuff.
Yes.
He allows it to happen.
We need to learn. This is painful. Do you like it? No.
Then shape up.
Then shape up. Do what you're supposed to do. This is the exile. You're supposed to. Now King Cyrus of Persia says you can go back and rebuild Jerusalem.
Right.
Everyone whose heart is moved by God to go. So not everybody is supposed to go do that. Okay? So some go, some don't. Mordecai doesn't. Where is he?
He stays in Susa.
He's still in Susa with Esther. Because he disobeyed the Lord? No. Because his ancestors disobeyed and he's in exile? Uh-huh. Okay?
But look at God's plan there, and that he did not move every heart. What would have happened if every Jew had gone back to Jerusalem?
Exactly.
It would have been a disaster.
They would have died from Ethiopia to India. Or God would have raised up deliverance from someplace else. Because that's what Mordecai said.
No, Jerusalem couldn't have supported that many people.
Well, that's true. That's true, because they were needed to be rebuilt. That's an Old Testament. Here's New Testament. Writer of Romans, who is Paul. This is tough. There is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. They are established by God. So that means King Ahasuerus, who go ahead and signs the edict to eliminate Jews, is set there by God. I don't understand that. Because I am not God and I am not sovereign. Okay? But he is. I also want you to, this whole lesson, I want you to go big picture, big picture, big picture, big picture, big picture. Okay, where's God in my big picture? Big picture. Why are you mommy to two boys? Why? What are those two boys going to do? And I don't know. I don't know. God knows. He's got a plan for them, and he's got you as their mama, because that's who needs to be their mama. Not me. I mean, I'm my kids' grandma's, but I'm not their mama. Why? Because that's what God determined. This is his sovereign. I tell my kids, when they say something, I don't like that, Mom. I go, well, take it up with God, because he sovereignly ordained me to be your parent. So talk up with him. Not my fault. This is what it says in the Word, so this is what we're going to do, because this is what God says. And if you don't like it, you're going to have to tell God about it, because I didn't decide who you were. He did. So then it's not my fault. It's just not. But that takes a lot of weight off of you. My kids don't like me. No, they don't like you. Welcome to the world. I didn't like my parents sometimes too. It's just the way it is. Chapter 2. You've got a theme for it. What is it? And remember, put your time next to your observation worksheet. How much time now has gone by between chapter 1 and chapter 2? This is critical.
We're in the 7th year in chapter 2.
And we were in the what year in chapter 1?
3rd.
So how much time has gone by?
4 years.
See, you did in math in elementary. You didn't need it. To exist in this world. This is 4 years later. Have they had a queen for 4 years? No, Vashti. No. How long is this edict of bring in all these virgins and we're going to see which one's the best, and how long has that been going on? 4 maybe. Or a year, because we do 6 months, right?
Yeah.
But then they brought him before the king, right? And I don't know how many women that was to choose one. I just know there's 4 years between chapter 1 and chapter 2.
Well, and we do know it took 22 months for Esther to be called in.
Right. So you're like, wow. Okay? I don't know what this does to a kingdom. I have no idea. I don't live like that. But you have a theme of it because what do you want to remember in chapter 2?
That Esther is chosen as the queen.
Esther is chosen. Those were the virgins gathered, right? This is a 4-year span. You want to remember that. And what about Mordecai?
He saved the king's
He
life.
saved
Yes.
the king's life. And it's written
In the Chronicles.
in the Chronicles in
Kings.
the presence of the king. So when he gets read it again, this is not the first time, it's the second time. Because he was in the presence when it was written down. Okay? Where's God's sovereignty in that?
Well, it got written in the Chronicles that he knew he was not going to be able to sleep and then ask for that to get called. Like,
Right?
Yeah.
It had to be written
Yeah.
for them to read it later. Okay? Good? Good.
Well,
Any verse? Think about your statue.
so,
Think about that Daniel statue. Head was gold of, and so that represented who?
that was Nebuchadnezzar.
Babylon, right, Nebuchadnezzar. Now we're on the chest, and that's who? The Medes and the Persians. We're going to go to bronze, which represents Alexander the Great. Then we're going to go down here, which represents
Romans.
Romans, and we don't know the toes. We ain't there yet. Because the stone that no builder made is going to crush it. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
So all of this, and the angel told Daniel, this is not going to happen all in your time. Go rest with your fathers in peace. It'll be okay. This is for the future. I'm still in it. I'm still waiting for that bottom to get fulfilled. Because my stone hasn't crushed it yet. And because his kingdom is forever. And he hasn't set that up yet. So I'm still waiting. Part of it did. Interesting. The rise of the Medes and the Persians, prophecy is fulfilled here. Because here are the Medes and Persians. This is the sovereignty of God. He told Daniel this is what's going to happen. This is what's happening. Okay? The Medes and the Persians, if they knew the interpretation of the statue, they're going to be defeated by
Alexander the Great.
who they're fighting. Right. Right. Okay? But we know Esther is chosen. Why?
Well, Esther's chosen in order to save the Jews.
But what qualified her?
Her
Her
beauty.
beauty. He didn't know her character. Have you met beautiful people that you went, yes. Well, she's not like that. He doesn't know that. He just knows she's beautiful of face and form. Well, who determined that? Ah, there's the sovereignty.
beautiful to him.
And beautiful to him. Beauty's in the eyes of the beholder,
I
right?
think you got to know her just a little bit, because it was an overnight thing. They didn't want them to have time. And it was in the winter time, so that was supposed to be.
Point
yeah,
two.
like more,
But you know women can fake it.
yes. But I do think that she has.
She can pretend who she is. When she isn't, but she can pretend who she is. But she wasn't.
I
This is who
think
she
you did
was.
have, I think you did have good character, Esther. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think it
Wonderful
showed.
character.
Yeah, and I think it showed.
It did. It absolutely did.
Yeah.
Okay? Because remember, God formed her in the womb before anybody ever saw her. Okay? Okay, Esther chapter 3. You've got a theme for this one, and it covers, a certain amount of time. What did you read in chapter 3?
Haman plots to kill the Jews.
Haman plots to kill the Jews. Right? You might as well just, that's the whole thing. How much time does this chapter cover?
This is in the 12th year.
So from the 7th to the 12th is
5.
5 years. Make sure you put that on your observation worksheet. So out of his 10-year, or this 10-year span for the book, how much time have we covered so far?
Well, we've got
7, 5, and
12th year.
Yeah.
9.
Right. 9 years have already gone by of this 10-year span of the whole book. So how much do you know then the chapters, what are we going to, 8 through 10? What's that got to cover? 1 year. That's all we got left.
Yeah.
1 year. Okay? So that's really helpful to document on in your book of Esther, in history, this is how much time it covers. And these are the years it covers. History backs up what happened. Okay? So this is a historically correct book as well. All right, he's plotted to destroy the Jews. Where is God's sovereignty in this?
Well, he did because of Mordecai. That's kind of what spurred it.
Right.
Mordecai was written in the book of Chronicles.
You're right, right? Okay, and Haman sees him, and Haman doesn't just want to destroy Mordecai, he wants to destroy who?
All the Jews.
All the Jews.
Which we know cannot happen.
Right? That cannot happen.
Cannot happen.
Cannot. How do we know that?
Abraham.
Okay, because our God is a
Genesis 12.
covenant-keeping God. Right. Okay.
It's almost like God set it up again too, that what he wanted King Saul to do. But
He
it's
didn't
almost
do
like
it.
he said, okay, I'm putting you back on the stage to do
Right.
it again. Let's see if you do it right this time.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. And how does Haman determine what time is going to happen?
Cast lots.
The lots, right? But we read in Proverbs 16:33, who determines the outcome of those lots?
Okay, Lord.
There's God's sovereignty. Okay? Nothing is coincidence. Absolutely nothing. People want to go, well, even my parking place isn't coincidence. Either God directs your days or he doesn't. Okay? He either lets you go through that stop sign or the stoplight or he doesn't. All right. For me, even in the grocery store, I just go through and that's not on my list. Yeah, but you're out. I am not. Never mind. And I get home and by gosh, I'm out.
And then you needed it for.
And I needed it, and I'm going to have to go back. And if I would just listen, I would save myself some time. Okay? That's that Holy Spirit that you're listening, you're used to hearing. So when you get nudged, just do it. So much easier. It's just so much easier to do. God determined this outcome. Okay? Genesis 3:15. Go all the way back. Why does Haman have such hatred? Who is in back of that? Satan is in back of that because I will put enmity between you and the woman and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head. That's not fatal. Okay? I'm sorry, that's fatal. You shall bruise him on the heel. So Satan just bruises them. God crushes him. Head, that's fatal. Heel's not. God prophesied this. Okay. So Satan knows, okay, this is what's going to happen. But does he believe it's going to happen? What cast him out of heaven?
His ego, his sin, his belief that he was equal to God.
He's just as good as God. Right. Okay. So what's his plot here? What's Satan's plot here? That he's using Haman to do?
Things you can annihilate.
Annihilate, destroy, kill, right? That's pretty much all three. They're gone.
More powerful than God.
Right. You think you're going to bring Messiah out of, but you're not. I'm going to wipe him out.
Right.
And I'm going to wipe it out through a law that cannot be altered or changed, so there is no way of escape.
Do you think by now he's realized, like, he's not going, he's just trying to derail
Yes.
each individual's
Yes.
soul at this
He
point?
sees time is of the essence. I think that's why we see evil ramped up and anti-Semitism. In America, I just kind of have to sit down on that one. My eyes are just bugging out. Just bugging out. For good people not to stand up and do something, I don't know. I hope you have Jewish friends that you assure them, I am on your side. I will speak up for you anytime, anywhere, any day, to anyone. Please don't ever think that I won't do that. They need to hear that. They need to hear that. Okay, chapter 4. What's your, you got a theme here. Impending doom is happening.
So the edict's been issued mourning.
Jews are in mourning.
Esther is informed of the edict.
Okay.
She fasts and prays.
She fasts and prays. Okay, so where is Esther?
She's in the palace.
Okay, what's her title? Of
Susan.
127
Yeah.
provinces. Ethiopia,
All the way in.
India. If he's king of that, she's queen of that. Does she live with the harem now? Oh, no. She's queen. What a platform God has put her in. Oh. What platform has God put you in? What do people see? I don't care if you're in the grocery store, if you're at home with your family, who do people see? It's kind of daunting. It's like, Lord, I don't want to mess it up. Please don't let me mess it up. Because I could so mess it up. Because that's just, that's who we are. We don't think I don't influence anybody. Oh, Andrea. You do. Unbeknownst to you. Let me just say that. People are watching, you're like, okay, somebody saw that? Uh-huh. That's a little scary. Do you know, and I've shared with you about my friend Wally that we have gone out to dinner with and stuff. He's at church every Sunday. Every Sunday he's at church. Has he repented of homosexuality? No. Is he in church? Yes. Will I love on him? Yes, I will. Will I approve of his lifestyle? No, I won't. But he's afraid that me is going to get ridiculed by sitting next to a homosexual man at First Baptist Windermere. I go, why would you even think that? Well, also unbeknownst to me, if you YouTube worship choir, First Baptist Windermere Orchestra and Worship Choir, do you know whose face comes up on a YouTube? Okay, I didn't know that. That's a little scary. That's very scary, to tell you the truth. I walk into a dermatologist's office and they go, oh, you go to First Orlando. Oh, I don't even know the person. Do you see how people are watching and you don't even know it? I'm telling you, I just kind of get in my car and go, oh, Lord, please don't mess with us. Don't let me mess this up. People, what if I get angry when I shouldn't get angry? We all live like that. I don't care what your platform is. Everybody knows. Everybody in your neighborhood, they see you leave for church every Sunday morning. Do they hear things in the backyard they shouldn't go to? Maybe. This is where Esther is. God has put her. She's a Jew. Nobody knows that yet. Okay? Yellow star. That's all I can see is what Mordecai sees, or Haman sees. But he doesn't know that's what she is yet. Okay? How do you see God's sovereignty in this? She hasn't been summoned for 30 days. What do you think's going through her head?
Well, like any woman, you would think, what did I do wrong? Why doesn't he want me? Doesn't he love me anymore?
Yes. I found favor. Maybe I doesn't like me anymore. Maybe he's going to do the same thing to me as he did to Vashti.
You're gone.
Hey, we're women, right? Just spins out of control. And now Mordecai's asking to do what? Does Mordecai know the rule?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he lives there. He knows the rules of the land. Does he know he wasn't supposed to be in mourning clothes? Yes. Does he know he was supposed to bow and give honor to Haman? Yes, he knows that. Did he do it? No, because there is a authority higher than that in his life. So he can't do that. Okay? How long does this chapter cover?
3 days.
So now we're at 9 years and 3 days into the rule, right? Okay? So at least we know that. We know it's 3 days because it's the 3-day fast. Okay, chapter 4 opens up when Mordecai learned all that had been done, right? He puts on his mourning clothes and he goes where he's not supposed to go. And what does he ask Esther to do?
To go to the king.
Go to the king, but what's the rule?
That she can't go unless she's called.
She can't. What happens if she's not called?
If he doesn't want out the scepter, she does.
She dies.
Guys, yeah.
Okay. This is not like, oh, he doesn't like me anymore. It's like, I'm dead. I want you to also keep in mind what happened to the people that Mordecai told on,
They were killed.
and how were they killed?
They were.
They were gallows. Now, David's also going to remind you that these gallows are not hanging by a noose, they're impaled. People are impaled. Are these gallows still standing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What could happen to Queen? So think about, she's fasted and prayed these 3 days, and she probably sees what could be her demise. Okay? She doesn't know whether the king is going to extend it or not. She doesn't know. But she's got to do what's right because why? Why did you just tell
She's
Mordecai
gonna
no?
die anyway if she
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
So they kill all the Jews.
If I perish, I perish. Okay? For me, it's like if I perish by the decree or if I perish by the king, not I'm gonna perish. This is where she is. How do you see God's sovereignty? Because what does Mordecai say? If you don't stand up,
God's still going to deliver.
God's still going to deliver. Whether he uses you, deliverance will come from someplace else. How does he know that?
He knows the promise of Abraham.
Right?
He knows there will be a remnant.
Okay? And again, they did have us in, I don't know if it was week 2 maybe, they had us go and find out how did he know that. Whatever, I think week 2 covered chapter 4. Okay? Isaiah 65:9 was one of them. Deliverance will come.
Yeah.
Jeremiah 31:27 to 37, I will put a new heart within you, a new spirit within you. How long is this covenant supposed to be for?
It's forever.
Well, then deliverance has to come from someplace else. If you're not going to, we're not going to get all massacred because God promised. All right? There's always going to be a remnant, period. Okay, let's open up with chapter 5. Now it came about on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, in front of the king's rooms. So is she at the throne room? Not yet.
No, she's in the
Probably doorway.
doorway.
I'm guessing.
Courtyard right outside.
Right. Just
Visible.
within his visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we know that the fast is over, right? And she has changed her appearance. And the king was sitting on his royal throne in the throne room opposite the entrance to the palace. When the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, she obtained favor in his sight. You can just hear this by Esther one. And the king extended to Esther the golden scepter which was in his hand. So Esther came near and she touched the top of the scepter. So now you know Esther knows customs and what's proper before the king and what isn't, and what she has to do if he extends it. She has to touch it, does not come. She has to touch it, okay? Then the king said to her, "What is troubling you, Queen Esther? Why does he think something's troubling you?"
Why would you risk her life?
Right? Okay. And after you fasted, okay, after you've been sick, what do you look like?
Gone.
Right, right? You're a little ragged, okay? And what is your request? This is the first time he says this. Even to half of the kingdom, it shall be given you. Esther said, if it pleases the king, may the king and Haman come this day to the banquet that I have prepared for him. Why wouldn't she just invite the king and tell him what's going on?
You set a trap.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
It's going to expose things.
Set in a trap.
How wise is that?
So smart. Because then you know if she'd only told him, then Mordecai would go to Haman. Are you doing what? No, he didn't have a chance to do that. Smart. And it doesn't say that anybody told her what to do. God. And she's already prepared the banquet, assuming he's going to come and I'm going to find favor. Right? Then the king said, bring Haman quickly, that we may do as Esther desires. So the king and Haman came to the banquet which Esther had prepared. As they drank their wine at the banquet, the king said to Esther, what is your petition? For it shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Here's the second time. Even to half the kingdom it shall be done to you. How big is this kingdom again? From Ethiopia to
India.
give it to you. Now that's not just find favor. That's whatever you want, blank check, you got it. So Esther replied, my petition and request is, you know what's going on. If I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king, yeah, you said that already, to grant my petition and do what I request, you said that already too. May the king and Haman come to the banquet which I will prepare for them tomorrow. I will do as the king says. Again. Wait. Okay. Then Haman went out that day glad and pleased of heart. Why? Why is he so glad?
I'm so special.
Right.
And he was right.
And he was right. Right? Because she invited me. I mean, and the king, but she invited me. Right. Only me and the king. Yeah. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and that he did not stand up, I would tremble. He did not tremble before him. He was filled with anger against Mordecai. Haman controlled himself, however, went to his house and sent for his friends and his wife Zeresh. And then Haman recounted to them the glory of his riches and the number of his sons, and every instance where the king had magnified him, and how he had promoted him above the princes and servants of the king. And also he said, even Esther the queen, let no one but me come with the king to the banquet which she had prepared. And tomorrow also I am invited by her with the king. So that's enough. No. Still not enough. I can't imagine the wealth of this man. I can't have 10,000 talents of silver, let alone who's going to give that.
Don't you find it a little curious that in this instance, all it is the king and Haman? There's no other princes, nobody else.
I know.
So God had orchestrated that she didn't have to say, no, it's just you with the king, not you, and you.
Right.
They were set apart. Obviously, he had a very tight relationship with this one, more so than the rest.
And Haman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, Haman is the second in command
He is.
at this point in time.
At this point in time. But the queen could specify, right? This is a special banquet. You're right. Right? Compared to the other 4 banquets that we have had.
Yeah.
There have been ginormous pomp and circumstances. This is not. This is just for you. Okay? That's intimate already. Yet all of this does not satisfy me every time I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Sitting. Not standing, not trembling, sitting. And, I have walked by and he's supposed to stand to give honor, pay homage, and he does not.
And he's decided to destroy them. So
Right.
he should be trembling.
So he should be trembling.
He should be scared of them. He's still
Right.
not.
Right? Okay, have you ever had an experience where you stand in front of someone that you should be afraid of, but you're really not? Tell me.
Oh, well, with Hank, because of his blood disorder, I've had to fight doctors about different things, like vaccines, because he can't get them on
Right.
the normal schedule.
Right.
Because it could make him go back and it could put him out of remission. And I've had doctors just scream at me, and I was like, I'm not doing this.
No.
You're wrong.
You're his advocate.
Yeah, and I don't have to do what you say.
Right.
You're not in charge of
Right.
him. I am.
Right.
And
But
it's
they're a
really
doctor and they're
hard.
so smarter than you.
Oh yeah, he went to Harvard. He healed his credentials. I was like, it's great.
See
I
ya.
don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's nothing that's going to stand in the way of that.
Mm-hmm.
This is Mordecai. There's There's no one and nothing that's going to stand between me and my God. He said, I can't, so I can't. I know you can take my life, but God gave me my life, so. The faith of this man is unbelievable. If Esther was raised in that kind of home, what do you think she was? God put her, and she knows it. She knows she's there for certain, but she doesn't know what it is. How long has she been there so far?
4 years?
I think 4 years.
Or almost 5?
Because we're in the 9th year of this whole 10-year span, right? And we're coming up to the climax. Right? That's quite a lot. There's no children yet that I know of. That's interesting. But again, God doesn't include that. There could be. I don't know. Okay, she goes before the king. Again, she's favored. We want to know that that's 33 days later. He hasn't seen her for 33 days now, right? He says, what's troubling you? Obviously, if you fast, your countenance is going to be a little different, especially for 3 days. Nothing to eat or drink, right? She already assumed he's going to come, said that. Anticipation can be used as manipulation. I know, I was like, oh, Lord, that's really good. I didn't come up with that. You know, he gave me that. But I was like, she's manipulating him through his anticipation. Men don't do that. They don't know how to do that. Women are very good at that. Experts in manipulation. Okay? God didn't give that skill to men. I don't know. I don't know why.
They don't even
Sometimes
see
he
it.
doesn't even get it. I know. Sometimes me as a wife to Ron have to go, honey, don't. No, this is not good. Huh? Yeah, right. It's just a deer in the headlights. What? Because only women do it and see it. But she's an expert. She's really good at it.
You know, can I say something as just women? When you say, manipulation, a lot of women use
Yes.
sex as manipulation. Obviously, she wasn't,
She was doing that.
she's a female, and if he hadn't been with her and he's, I don't know, maybe he was going to his harem, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what they did in that day. But she could have used her charm and her sexuality.
Oh, totally.
But that's not what
Right.
she did at all.
Nor do I think she has any say over that. He can beckon her at any time.
But
She
she
comes.
could have flirted with him, if you
Totally.
will, or,
She
That's
might have been
right.
flirting with him.
And she might have been, right? And it's like, I gotta wait another, see ya. Again, women are incredibly good at that.
Yeah, but she calls him to her and then it's like, okay, now go away. then
And
goes
what
back.
do you think she's dressed like?
Yeah.
Right? Ooh.
And she was beautiful.
Beautiful of face and form. Right. Okay. Okay, what do you know about Haman from those 13 verses? What's his character?
Arrogant.
Yes.
Totally.
Hateful.
Hate. It just comes from the inside and goes out, right? Yes. Yeah.
When
Anything
you
else?
look back on those 7 things that God hates the most, number 1.
Right, we
that's
had to list those
haughty
with
eyes,
Haman.
which is the pompous and I'm
Right.
better than everybody else.
Yes.
You have a perfect example of
I thought all of them applied to him, except maybe for the brother striking it, maybe not that one, but I thought every other one totally applied to him. He's glad and pleased at heart. This man is like a maniac, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down. Any little thing can just bottom him out, or get him to the top, or bottom him out, right? He lets circumstances determine his,
Yes.
right? You can't live like that. You can't live successfully like that. Okay. Think about, okay, who else showed everybody his glory, his riches, and his great splendor? The king. Right, chapter 1, and we only got a little bit of description of what it was. It was magnificent. So Haman does the same thing with his friends and his wife, right? I don't know how many sons he had, but he's promoted. But just Mordecai, just him, puts him out in the ditches again. Man. This was from Matthew Henry commentary that I was reading on that Bible CC app, you know. I was like, that's a great quote. A slight affront, which a humble man would scarcely notice, will torment a proud man even to madness and will mar all his comfort. Anybody else come to mind?
Look at our political world.
Thank you.
It's all of them.
Just a little and
I can think of a ton of people not political.
Yeah.
I mean, like
But those are the people
90%
in
of
power
America.
that,
right? I just think of Hitler too. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he got insane towards the end. People, I don't know, psychologists, whatever, analyze him while he's giving a speech, and it's like he is crazy man by certain antics that he does. It's like crazy man. What's making him crazy?
it's that perception of control, but not,
Right.
and not being able to control all of it,
Right.
just eats at somebody's mind.
Right. It's never enough. Never enough. It can't be, because he said, I'm not satisfied. He's not sad. Why wouldn't you be satisfied with all of that? But he's not. Because there's one thing. Okay? Verse 14, Zeresh, his wife, all his friends said to him, have a gallows. Did we say there's a gallows already there?
Yes.
In the
King has a capital.
palaces,
Right.
yeah.
Chapter 2, 23 says there's a gallows already built and have been used. But evidently they're not high enough. Okay? Have a gallows 50 cubits, which they say is 75 feet high, made, and in the morning, who's timing so? Who's deciding when it's going to happen?
His wife and his friend.
His wife and his friends until he agrees, right? So he thinks, yes, swift. Get this guy out of my life. Ask the king to have Mordecai hanged on it. Then go joyfully with the king to the banquet. And the advice pleased Haman, and so he had the gallows made. So, timing, how long did it take the gallows to be built? 75 feet high.
But apparently overnight.
Overnight. This is rapid revenge. That makes him feel better.
Don't you think his wife and his friends are just tired of hearing about it?
Yeah, well, I think so.
Would you just you think you're so great, do something about it?
Right.
Because haven't we not ever been there when our husbands are complaining about something? Would you do something about it?
Right. They can't do anything about
Make it in.
Right. They can't
I
do
don't want to
anything.
hear it anymore.
Right? And they tell him to ask the king. So I guess he doesn't have the authority to do it on his own. He still has to have, but he has the ring. He has the signet ring. I was like, you still have to ask the king? Well, evidently because he's going right away to ask him.
Yeah.
I guess he can't order executions.
Evidently not. So remember, the gallows have already been, they're already in existence. So where's the sovereignty of God in that?
Well, this gallows is actually built at Mordecai's house.
At his house?
Yes. Next to his house.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Where does it say that?
I might
I
have
think it's in chapter.
left ahead to the next
yeah,
chapter.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
But where's just verse 14? Where's the sovereignty of God? What's Mordecai going to do? Revenge, right? So he's taking out vengeance on him.
right.
Is vengeance his?
No.
No. Can Mordecai rest in that? Does he know this verse? From the law.
Yeah.
He knows that. Vengeance is
It's
whose?
mine.
I love the whole verse. We always go, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Let's read the rest of it. And retribution. In due time, their foot will slip. Haman's foot is going to slip. Okay? For the day of their calamity is near, and the impending things are hastening upon them. Now that's the whole verse. It's not just vengeance is mine. This is going to also happen to them. How does Mordecai know that God is going to do that for him?
Well, he's seen it happen, and he knows the history. He's seen God take care of things
Right.
over time.
Right.
Whether it happens for him specifically,
Or
he
or
knows
his
God
people.
will deal with it.
God's going to
He's
do it.
trusting.
Yeah, he's trusting him.
Trusting.
He trusted him. That God says something, he does it. If he said he's going to do it, he's going to do it. Now, my timing, his timing, that might be a little different, but he will do it. I want you to keep that in mind with these anti-Semitic things happening on our college campuses. I am literally watching what's going to happen to these colleges because of they're doing that you don't go against Israel and win. You just don't.
Right.
As a person, as a nation, whatever, God supernaturally protects his people because that's what he says he's going to do. Already, major financial.
I was going to say funding is being pulled.
Yes.
Oh,
You hit our nerves is the
money talks.
Can't pay
Yeah.
people.
I'm not going to, I'm like, that's a lot of money. And this is not racist. What are Jewish people known for?
Wealth.
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 Why is that? They're God's people. Duh. Okay? I just have never met a poor Jewish person, ever.
No.
Ever.
They don't have their land per se, and yet God has blessed
Right.
so that they have power.
You know who our accountant is? A Jewish people. That we've known since, I've known since this time. Yes, duh. She's my Jewish mama. I wouldn't trade her for the world. But she doesn't know Jesus. That breaks my heart. So she's on my list to pray for all the time. All the time. Okay, if you have a theme, what do you want to remember about this chapter?
They're going before the king, giving the banquet.
Right? This is her first banquet. Come to the second one, but we don't know what the second one does yet, right? And
Haman's
gallows built in one day. One day. Okay? Chapter 6. During that night, the king could not sleep. So he gave an order to bring the book of records, the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. It was found written what Mordecai had reported concerning Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs who were doorkeepers, and that they had sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. The king said, well, what honor or dignity has been bestowed on Mordecai for this? So he's paying attention. He's still not sleeping, reading the Chronicles. Has not put him to sleep. He's paying attention. Then the king's servants who attended him said, nothing has been done for him. How long since that was done to when it's been read?
6 years.
Okay. So, that's significant. Is Mordecai going, excuse me, hello? You want to, no. What do we know? He just goes right back to his station. This is what he does. So the king said, who's in the court? Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace in order to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai on the gallows which he had prepared for him. I don't know if Haman had to sleep this night or not, but he sure is there early in the morning. Ready.
Oh, he's excited.
He's so.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great day.
Mordecai's going to be out of my life. Right?
And I get to go back to the queen's
Wow,
banquet.
this is going to be a good day. Yeah. The king's servant said to him, behold, Haman is standing in the court. The king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, what is to be done for the man whom the king desires to honor? So what do we know about Haman?
It's going to be me.
Exactly.
What would I like? What does he not ask for that's been offered to queen?
Half the king.
Why doesn't he ask for that? That's ginormous. I mean, can you imagine the ruling? Can you imagine the people that would have to fall down and give him honor in every province he walks into? so much greater.
You have to look at the timing, exactly what you said, was Haman's going there to ask to put the gallows the night before the king reads the Chronicles, and it's first thing on the king's mind is, hey, we need to do,
Right.
God is
Unbelievable
just
timing.
unbelievable. Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Had he not read that the night before, that might
He
have
would-
been
yeah.
different.
It probably would have applied to Haman had he not been read that. Yeah. It's just amazing. So, for the man whom the king desires to honor, let them bring a royal robe which the king has worn. So it's used. As if everybody knows that that's the
It's been
king.
touched by the king.
Oh, that's good too.
That makes it special.
But it's the king's
Oh,
garment.
yes. So that's going to have to come out of the king's wardrobe.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And the horse on which the king has ridden, this is not a plain horse, this is a draped horse that is magnificent. No, I mean, I'm sure his mane is braided, his tail is braided. He is decked to the nines. And on whose head a royal crown has been placed. Okay, we know this isn't just a gold crown. This is bejeweled. Okay? I call it blinged. It is. It's going to sparkle. Everybody's going to know. Okay, sun's going to hit it. It's going to be magnificent. And let the robe and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble princes. So one of his colleagues,
Yes.
right? And let them array the man whom the king desires to honor and lead him on horseback through the city square. And not only that, they're not going to remain silent. They have to proclaim before him, thus it shall be done to the man whom the king desires to honor.
Couldn't get any worse.
It couldn't get any worse. Oh, the king says to Haman, well, take quickly the robes of the horse, as you have said, and so do for Mordecai the Jew, who is sitting at the king's gate. Do not fall short in anything of all that you have said. So Haman took the robe and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city square and proclaimed before him, not thus it shall be done to the man whom the king desires to honor. He didn't say it like that. He had to proclaim it as if he believed it.
Which is hard to do, gritting your teeth.
Right? You think he's filled with rage while he's doing that?
Can you imagine what was going through as he's doing this? His wife and his friends who needed to build the gallows are going, what?
Thank you.
What? I walk
See?
outside and this is what I see.
This is great. You're totally with that. You're a character in the story.
I kind of feel like they're laughing a little
Absolutely.
bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then Mordecai, he goes into the king's palace.
No,
He just
go back to the gate.
He's coming back to the gate. But Haman hurried home, mourning with his head covered. Why would he cover his head?
I want people to see him.
I don't want people to see that I was the one that did that to him. Again, we've discussed the sovereignty of God. He can't sleep. The king should be sleeping good. He's been fed, he's been wined and dined, and he has anticipation to go to the next time. This should be peaceful and wonderful, and he can't sleep.
He does have that war going on though.
Right? Right? I think maybe some anticipation, but again,
And Esther also, all those things that she's been doing, he's like, what's going on? What is this
right?
leading to?
It's like a mystery.
And I also
Right?
he's starting to get a little feel for Haman and kind of has an eye on him for.
Right. He's got to wonder, why is she inviting him
Yeah.
too? I mean, you know,
Is he really loyal to
two's company, three's a crowd, right?
Right.
Things are not settled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he knows something's going on, right? But he doesn't know what it is. But he can only think that it's good because he's the king.
You know what else interesting that you think about this, being that she's not been with him, that she was out away for 30 and now 33 days, whatever. You would think, as we think, when you lay in bed, no matter what you're doing, there's a lot of talk, lots of talk.
Pillow talk.
Yes, but there couldn't be because she's not there.
She's not been.
So there's no communication there.
No. And I'm sure the king goes, she likes me. She likes me. I want her, she wants me.
Yes.
She's got to be thinking that because He's a man.
Yeah.
He's, you know,
She's wanting me.
yes,
Yes, there isn't any
yes, she desires me. Because he's a man and she's a woman. That's just, nothing's changed.
But then there's that, so why did she invite this other guy?
Right.
Exactly.
And he can eat, but then he needs to go home.
But she also didn't just immediately be like, oh yeah, just give me half. She wasn't just asking for
No.
things from him.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like she doesn't even want anything from him. Just come eat with me. We're going to have a good,
Well,
you
that's
know.
the biggest thing is she wants his presence. Like
Right.
that's even more. When somebody wants your presence over things you can give them,
Don't you love that, though?
that's even more.
You don't want anything
yeah.
from me? No, I just want you to be here in my space. Ron and I are at the point now where it's like, quiet night at home. This is good. This is good. We don't want to have anybody, no, this is good. Oh, good. It's Friday night, you want to go right now? No, this is good. That's where we are. I like the season. It's a good season.
But he also gets to, in a sense, it's kind of bragging rights too,
Ah.
because Haman is observing this beautiful woman.
Yes.
And
Which you
she's
can't
doing
have.
this for the kid, which you can't have,
Can't
which
have.
you'll see, you know, kind of takes a little turn there, but and I forgot what I was gonna say, because I was derailed myself. But anyway, it's kind of bragging rights, that thinking, you know, even Haman would go out and say, man, the king has the most beautiful wife, she's so
That
beautiful,
is
she
so
does
true.
all this, and
That's true.
she's amazing. So in a sense, he has those bragging rights
He does.
with having somebody there, and it's the number 2 guys.
Right. And he knows he's going home. He's not staying the night. He knows
Right,
that.
right,
Yeah. You see God's sovereignty over all of this, obviously. But Haman's ordered to honor Mordecai in the manner he wishes to be honored. Okay? So now keep in mind this, you always marking mourning. Haman is mourning now. It's not Mordecai. Haman is doing the mourning. I couldn't help but think of 1 Timothy 6:6. Godliness with contentment is great gain. I couldn't help but think of that because Mordecai's totally content.
Yes.
He has impending doom, impending death. But he's not trembling before the guy that is going to kill him, as far as he knows, has the power to kill him. He's like, okay, be Mordecai on the horse with Haman pulling you.
His character seems like he almost wouldn't like the attention. You know,
That's what
like
I thought,
Yeah.
because he goes right back to the gate.
Right.
It's like, I don't know.
you can see a huge like contrast of character here. Haman
Right.
wanted the prideful one that's all about, you know, he wants to be honored in this way, and
Yes.
that, I mean, of all the things I could have would be to look like the king riding through the city. And then Mordecai, who's humble and his contentment's in God, he doesn't need somebody to fluff him up. He knows who he is and who God is, and he's
I think the city knows them. I think the city knows this is Mordecai. Haman's doing, I'm sorry, should it be the other way around? This is weird.
I feel like I'd be more scared to be Mordecai, like on the horse with this happening, than I would just him
Could get
passing
mad
down
at
the
it.
street. Yeah, I'd be like, this is.
sometimes it's nice to be in the shadows.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sometimes you don't want to be thrown out in the public.
Thank
Let's
you.
just hide back here.
But look at the obedience of Mordecai. He submitted to this because the
That's
king
a good
had
point.
said, let's do
Yeah.
this.
That's true.
You know,
That's a good point.
Haman hates him because he's not obedient and he doesn't bow down like I've said he needs to. But he obeyed the king.
Right.
But Mordecai also didn't gloat over Haman. It doesn't say anywhere that he said anything. I mean, you could think of a lot of people that'd be on that horse and be like, ha ha ha, you know, like.
Say it louder.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, that's not loud enough. You want to speak a little bit more?
Yeah, like, oh, you took the shortcut, you know, like trying to, like, would try to
Yes.
egg it on and, like, you know,
You're
torture
right, I
Haman
thought
with
about
it,
that.
and Mordecai doesn't do it. He just
doesn't.
quietly goes back to the city gates, you
Right.
know.
I had to kind of wonder what the other Jews in the city were thinking, in the sense of they went ahead and bowed down. They served the same God that Mordecai does.
And they have been fasting for
And then they're
3
watching
days.
this, there had to be some confusion,
Total.
plus they knew the degree.
Total.
So it's
Yeah.
like, what? Whoa, what?
Right?
You know,
Right?
Yeah.
To me, this is also, like it has a double meaning, and God is saying, it's God's the king, and he's talking about his people, thus it shall be done to the man whom the king desires to honor. It's really.
It's like a foreshadowing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's good. That's good because the whole city, including the Jews that have been fasting for 3 days, are seeing Mordecai up on the king's horse with the king's crown, with the king's robe. And Haman is the one such confusion. It's like, I'm sorry, aren't we supposed to be killed here pretty soon? And he's the guy that, I'm sorry, and Mordecai is a Jew. You do know that. You know, it's like, yes, we know that. Total confusion. You're right. This would cause confusion in the city between the Jews and the other inhabitants of the provinces going, okay, you're supposed to honor that. I thought you're giving us power to pillage, destroy, annihilate, kill, destroy him.
That's what I don't get.
I don't understand.
It even says Mordecai the Jew.
Right.
And I'm like, so you know he's Jewish.
Right.
You know?
And the edict is in place.
Like maybe he was just like really drunk when he said yes to the whole edict thing, you know? Like honestly.
Hey, the city could know that's his habit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that would make sense.
It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
He has displayed a reckless nature.
Yes.
I mean, to Esther the Queen, you can have half of the kingdom.
Right.
Who does that?
Who does that? To a woman.
My last wife wouldn't come to me and I killed her, but you can have half of
the kingdom.
You know, obviously he's very rash.
Right.
And
And
maybe he finally fell asleep after the part about Mordecai in the Chronicles, and he doesn't even remember letting Haman.
Right? It's like, I don't know.
They didn't get to reading that part of the Chronicles.
Because I don't know what time
There's a lot of
banquet is,
drinking,
right?
too.
And there's
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
drinking.
Yeah.
They're always having a banquet. They're always drinking and stuff.
Right, and some of the commentaries say there might not even have been a whole lot of food. They may have eaten before they went to the banquet because that was a common custom, that it was mostly drink. And it was like little, things, but I was like,
Yeah.
Okay.
I found that weird. Like,
Yeah.
Mordecai the Jew. Like he didn't say Mordecai. He said Mordecai
the Jew. Right.
Very specific.
Haman recounted to Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had happened to him. Then who? This is not his friends or Zeresh. This is who?
His wise man.
His wise men.
He has wise men.
Well, I would hope some of his friends are wise.
I would hope. Right?
There is a distinction there.
But
Yeah.
but where did we read about wise men before?
With the king.
Who knew the times and the laws and they know that. So I'm applying that to these wise men because they're being called wise men. Okay? And Zeresh his wife, and they said to him, if Mordecai, whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish origin, okay, that's the rhetorical. You have begun to fall, and he is of Jewish origin. You will not overcome him, but will surely fall before him. While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hastily brought Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared. What was their advice in chapter 5?
Oh, raise the gallows and kill him.
Well, this says
That was wifey and friends.
Yeah,
It's a
that
wife.
wasn't wise men. That was wife and friends.
This time he
But it
called
was
it
Zeresh.
friends,
Yes,
wife,
it was his wife.
and wise men.
Right,
But she's agreeing with the wise
Right.
men now. She's like,
Yes.
yeah, they're
right?
I
So,
have to
I
see
think she's
that.
over him.
Enough already.
I mean, I would be.
I'm just saying. Okay, they predict Haman's downfall.
Yes.
Why would they? If he is, why would? Oh, I even care that he's of Jewish origin. Why would I even care that? What do we know about wise men?
Well, they know the
They
history.
know the history.
And
That God might not be their God, but they know
The
that
times.
They know those laws.
Yes.
And maybe too, like they're saying, like if this is a people that you're trying to crush, and yet this person is coming out
Right.
on top, like this isn't a good.
This
idea.
isn't looking good
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
you.
And in history, time after time, it has looked like they should have been crushed.
And they
And
couldn't.
there's been a supernatural moving that has
That's it.
protected them,
That's it. And they can't explain it.
and they can't explain it.
Because, you know,
They just know
they
you
may
can't
be
do-
Medes and Persians, but they know that the Red Sea parted
I was
and
gonna
they
say,
walked
from
through on
Exodus
dry
on, they know
ground
the
and they know
history.
about the 10 plagues in
Yes.
Egypt. Everybody knows about that. Okay, if he's a Jew, this may not be going well. You know, wise men. And Zeresh. All right?
But you know, and there's no question. It's not this. You will not.
No,
Yeah.
it's
You
not.
will
You may
not.
not. You will not overcome him. You will not. How long does this chapter cover?
It did.
One day, just one day. That's it. Okay? Sovereignty of God. What do you see? And he pretty much already said it.
Yeah.
What's verse
The
1?
sleep thing,
Couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
because I know I've had that when I can't sleep.
And you look at
And
the
you
next
finally
day
get up
coming.
and you go, even not even reading my Bible, reading something else, but
Right.
through that, God will
Speak.
speak to me in the midst of that.
Exactly.
Or sticking those song lyrics that won't clear out of your head.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. If I can't sleep, I know that there's a reason that I don't look to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning. Hello? Do you know what my day looks like? Mhm. Do you know at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, then go, but I need you up now. So I get up. I tell people I don't set an alarm. I don't know why. I don't know. In vocal team, when you have to be there at 6:45 in the morning, I don't set an alarm. I'm up at 5:30. I don't know. It's just God knows. Time to get up. So I just do. Again, sleep is from God. Psalm 4:8 says, "In peace I will both lie down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me to dwell in safety." When you don't have sleep for an extended amount of time, you know that that is torture. You know that. When I tell new mommies, you do know that this is that is torture, right? That the enemies use that, right? To keep their foe, and so that they will talk and that they will finally break. Lack of sleep.
Enemies and toddlers.
It's like newborns. It's like, what day is it? Oh, I thought it was 10 at night. It's 10 in the morning?
That whole curse doesn't end at childbirth. Yeah.
No.
You're like, thanks God. Thanks Eve.
You're right. Thanks, Eve. Thanks. Here comes the king. He's had lack of sleep, and he's going to be grumpy and irritable because he hadn't had any sleep. Okay? And he has to go into this banquet that he's been waiting for with Esther, and he hasn't been able to sleep. Okay, so that's God's timing. You got to put a theme somewhere on there. What do you want to remember for chapter 6?
That Haman has to honor Mordecai.
Yep. That's what the whole chapter is about. Sleepless king, or, I don't know. Haman is commanded to honor Mordecai the king, or by the king. Okay? All right, chapter 7. Let me do my time. Okay. Now the king and Haman came to drink wine with Esther the queen, and the king said to Esther on the second day, also as they, here we go again, drank their wine at the banquet. I'm thinking there's a lot of wine flowing. This is the third time he said, "What is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted you, and what is your request? Even to half the kingdom it shall be done." Remember, he's a Persian. These statements are exactly the same because this is what Persians do. When you write down the law, this is the law which cannot be altered or changed, period. His gift is exactly the same all 3 times. The queen replied, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king," here comes the bomb, right? "Let my life be given me as my petition and my people as my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, to be annihilated. Now, if we have been sold as slaves, men and women, I would have remained silent, for the trouble would not be commensurate with annoyance to the king." Explain that.
Well, just that if they had just been sold into slavery, they would have lived.
They would
She
have
wouldn't have
lived
bothered the king. It wouldn't have been worth her time to bother the king.
and risk her life.
Right.
Right. Because, they've been slaves before.
Yeah.
They'll be slaves again. They've been slaves before. Okay.
And she would have been enslaved to him.
Right.
That's what it is anyway.
Right.
She is.
Yeah.
She is.
Interesting that she could make so much sense when it says she drank with them. That's the first time you see that.
Right. Right.
But
She doesn't mean she drank a lot, but she's participating in her
just
own
been sipping
banquet.
and putting it down because
Yeah.
obviously she had her faculties.
Right.
But that's the only time you see her drinking with
And
them.
she knew she had to keep her faculties.
Yeah.
Because this is do or die right now. This is, I'm going to drop the bomb and I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, she's requesting the life of herself, right, and her people. Does she say the Jews?
No.
That has not been told him yet. Okay? Was she sold? You better have chapter 3, verse 9 next to that. What did Haman offer? 10,000 talents of silver. Yes, sold. Okay? She uses the exact words of the edict. How did she get those exact words?
From Mordecai.
From Mordecai, who gave her a copy. This says, destroyed, killed, and annihilated. Okay, that should be going, the king should be going, oh, I think I remember that edict. Okay.
Well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but Mordecai certainly, Haman certainly
Haman
recognizes his own words.
I think you said would be Haman going, what?
Whoa.
If we had only been sold as slaves, right? I'd be silent. Why? Like Ben said. But think of this not as great a loss to the king, financially, bodily, personally, as he would incur at the total loss of a people group out of his 127 provinces. This is a whole people group being annihilated, exterminated.
Very large.
Very large. Very large. So she's looking out for the king's interest as well. Gotta remember that. Verse 5, then the king Ahasuerus asked Queen Esther, who is he? Why he? Why not the law? Who is she pleading her life? She's pleading for her life in front of him. So why ask he?
Well, if they've been sold,
Who are they sold to?
somebody's been involved in a transaction.
That's
Yes.
why she says he, okay? And where is he who would presume to do thus? Esther said, oh, I love how she describes him. A foe, enemy, wicked, Haman. Then Haman became terrified before the king and queen. The king arose in his anger from what?
From drinking wine.
Drinking wine. He was an angry drunk. And went into the palace garden. To count to 10? The king doesn't do that. He's rash, right?
Well, the edict has been issued, so he's
What
like,
am I
what do
gonna
I
do?
do about this?
Can't be
What-
altered or changed.
Yeah.
It's Persian law. But Haman stayed to beg for his life from who?
Queen Esther.
Who is a
Jew.
Okay? For he saw that harm had been determined against him by, not Esther, the
Oh,
king.
the king's deciding something.
Uh-oh, right? Has he seen that anger before?
Yeah,
Yeah, with who? With Vashti. He knows bad things happen when the king gets mad. So when the king returned from the palace garden into the palace where they were what? Drinking wine, right? Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was. Now, was he doing what the king thought he was doing?
No.
No. Okay. Timing. Why does he come in at that moment?
Okay, so you know what Jewish tradition says?
Uh-oh.
Michael pushed him onto the couch.
Oh, that's a reach. Whoa. I love Jewish tradition. I love that.
But he's close to the queen, and that's
You don't
obviously
do that.
got to be in
Even
there.
if he's on the
Yeah.
same piece of furniture, even if
Oh.
he's not that close.
He's not
to her,
supposed to be
He's
there.
not supposed to be
No.
there.
Personal space here.
No, but imagine being Esther. Like, whenever you confront somebody to their face, but then you're like, you just confronted him. You know what you just did. I mean, as much as even if he's wicked, like, he's still a person
I
who's
would be
here.
afraid that the king went out.
And the king left, and now you're alone with him, and you're like,
Uh-oh.
if there's like, talk about awkward,
Awkward. I would be scared.
and scared. Yeah,
And
like,
also as men with that kind of power,
Right.
with a woman that beautiful, and then he feels like he needs to show her he's powerful.
Right.
Right.
And we know he is a foe, he's wicked, and he's her.
Which is why the king thought exactly what he thought.
That's exactly right.
The interesting thing here though too is when it says that when after the king left and he returned to where they were drinking, so they were sitting there still drinking.
Where, just the place where they had been drinking. That's how I took
okay,
it.
okay.
That's how I took
Yeah,
it.
I think it's
Into the place.
Where they had
Where
been
they were
drinking.
drinking.
Yeah.
location defining.
Okay, got it.
And the king says, will he even assault the queen with me in the house? As the word, this is the timing, oh my gosh. As the word went out of the king's mouth, who is the they that covered Haman's face?
Well, he probably brought some of his
She's not
I
someone
mean,
who.
there would have been eunuchs around her,
Yeah, that's
her
right.
guards.
That's
Would have been
right,
around
yes.
and servants and stuff.
Right.
Well, I'm sure as soon as he went out in the courtyard, there were security people that are like, what's going on?
Yeah,
I
why-
mean, like
why
when
didn't you
the
just
king
leave?
leaves mad, like
Yeah.
when you're in charge of his safety, you go
Right.
find out what's happening.
There you go. That's a good point. Then Harbona. Okay, have we read his name before? Because I know you would have gone, do I know who that is? You do know who that is. Who is that?
In the first chapter one.
He's in first chapter, verse 10, okay? One of the eunuchs who were, here's this presence thing again, right? Before the king said, how does he know this? Behold, indeed, the gallows standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai, who spoke good on behalf of the king. And the king said, hang him on it.
Right.
How does Harbona know that that's why he had the
Well,
gallows?
something like that
built?
ain't happening overnight without the whole town knowing.
Well,
Whole
and also
house,
the
yeah.
eunuchs were sent to Haman's house
Right.
to bring him back to the banquet. He was
Okay.
probably
And
one
they
of
would have
them.
gone, what's being built there? What's that?
But I
As
feel
they
like
say in
he's
the
been
Princess
watching the
Diaries,
whole thing.
The servants know everything.
Yes.
They know what's going on, and it's almost like he's been waiting to say this. Like he couldn't just approach the king and say, "Hey, this is what's going on behind your back." But he's like, "Finally, I get to say it."
I get to tell the king something really important.
Like he's seen this whole like the Mordecai and the Haman. He knows what's going
I've got
on,
information you might want to know. Yes.
but he can't say it because he's got to risk his life to say it. But he's like, yes. Like, this is
Let
going
me
on.
help you, help me help you. Okay, again, does Queen Esther have power over Haman's life?
Not exactly.
No. That's why she asked the king. This is, and she didn't even ask him what to do.
She didn't ask him to kill Haman.
told him.
She just save me and my people.
That's it. I'm pleading
Yeah.
for my life and my people's life. And I didn't tell you to kill him. I'm just pleading for my, okay.
Right.
It's all the king's idea of what to do with them. Haman's called wicked, a foe, and an enemy. And okay, and the king misinterprets. Doesn't really matter. Okay? He's sentenced to immediate death on the gallows prepared for Mordecai. Now, again, this eunuch, right, was one of the ones commanded to bring Vashti.
Uh-huh.
So he knows what happens to Vashti. Now he knows this queen is not deserving of death, though she has pleaded for her life and the life of her people. Connecting the dots is going on. Okay? Verse 10. So they hanged Haman on the gallows, which he had prepared for Mordecai, and the king's anger subsided. Okay? You've got to want to know, where is God's sovereignty? It's all over this chapter.
I was gonna say everything.
All over this chapter, right?
Yeah, and even though Haman's been taken out of the picture, they're still stuck with the edict.
I know,
As
this is
we're going to find
interesting.
out in
Anger
chapters 8 to
subsided,
10.
but it's
But
not
the edict is
over.
still there. It's
The
not.
I know.
edict is still, it has not gone away, right? It's still,
It's still there.
because it can't be altered or changed. It's
Right.
Medo-Persian law, all right? But can you see where God is raising up?
Mm-hmm.
He's fighting for that defense. Okay.
He's
Who's he
putting them
taking
into
out?
a position of power. He's taken out.
Foe, enemy, wicked,
Right.
Haman. Esther couldn't do that, but who did it? God did it. Second Chronicles, I love this chapter, 2017. It says, stand and see the salvation of the Lord on your behalf. This is what book?
The
Chronicles. Chronicles, okay? This is the Chronicles of Israel. This
Right.
would not be the Chronicles that were read to the king, but these Chronicles that back up and give you more information of the kings
Of Israel.
in 1st and 2nd Kings. Correct. Psalm 23:5, right? Psalm 23. You prepare a what?
Table before me.
Table before me in the presence of what?
Enemies.
Who's there? Haman, the foe, enemy, wicked, right? Do they? No. I eat in peace. I eat in safety and security, for surely goodness and mercy will follow in the presence of my enemies. Okay? Your theme's got to be something about Haman being revealed, right? And then his fate.
Yes.
Right. His end. What's his end? As Yzma would say, it is a cruel irony. Right? He's hanging the gallows that were meant for the guy that makes his face downcast. Okay? You got to come up with some application. We don't just study to get knowledge and go, Esther was a really cool story. You should watch the VeggieTales space because this is really good too. Because you should, but you know, that's beside the point. Do you see the sovereignty of God in your life? Boy, if you're looking for it, you can't miss it. But you got to be looking for it. You miss so much if you don't look for it. Right? And then what happens is this gratefulness. It just bubbles out because you're like, why did you do that? Who am I that you would do that? I don't. Please don't. And then again, please don't mess me up. Don't let me mess it up. I can't believe you entrusted me with that, but please don't mess me up. Don't let me do the mess it up because I am prone to mess it up. Because that's what I do. I want to get ahead of God and do, oh, this would be a good, did you ask him? No, but this would be, I'm going to mess it up. What am I doing each day to look for that sovereign direction in my day as he guides my every step? Because sometimes he doesn't wake me up when I think he should, and I sleep later, and that really ticks me off. I'm like, I have this. Somehow, this that needs to be done gets done. But in my timetable, that's not possible. But it did, because you needed to. So this is okay. I don't get, ticked off so much as I used to. It's a refining, okay? How can I rest in the knowledge that God's on my side? That he is going to fight my battles for me no matter what they are or who they involve, no matter how big that person or thing, entity seems to be, okay? How do I know that? Psalm 37. Rest in the Lord, wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way. Do we not see that? I'm like, I don't understand. How is this being given success? This is so wrong. Well, it's wrong because I have a biblical worldview. That's why it's wrong. It's not wrong to them because they don't have a biblical worldview. They have their worldview, which doesn't go along with God's. But I can still rest knowing they think they're in control, but they're not. Because a man who carries out wicked schemes, don't worry about that guy. God sees him. God can handle it. The way I would handle it is not the way God would handle it. Because probably what I would do would be temporary. What God does is eternal. Eternal consequences. I don't have that kind of power, nor do I see that. Big picture. Right. This was all in the big picture of Jewish history. Where we are right now is in the big picture
Of
Jewish history. Whew. And I'm telling you, I pray for Israel. It's always a pray for the peace of Israel. Pray for the peace of Israel. I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. Never, ever. Anti-Semitism in America. And I see it, and the crowds disturb me because there's so many. But I also know it's out of ignorance because what they are standing for, especially the women that stand up, I'm like, you do understand Hamas will rape, pillage, and kill you. You do it. That's who you're standing up for. That's what they do. That's what they did.
Yes.
Just in January. This is what they did. But that's who you're waving the flag for. They don't.
They're blind.
They don't know.
They're blind.
They're blinded. They do not know. They just don't understand. But I don't want them to find out the hard way of what they're standing up for. I don't wish that for anybody. This is not a frightening time. I'm not scared because, my God's in control, so I can rest, right? But I pity them. I pray for them, Lord. Satan is so behind this, using whoever he wants to use because he hates the Jews. Because out of them came the Messiah.
Yeah.
Hates them. Therefore, he hates us. We have a real present enemy. And boy, this is where love has got to overshadow. And pray. Especially for this election.
Could this be part of the great delusion that the Bible talks about?
Like,
I mean, this is just the
yes.
start of the fall before people's eyes. They
That's what I'm
cannot see
thinking.
clearly.
Right,
With so
right.
many things.
But again, people, and I was asking Ron that too. I'm like, I don't understand. He goes, our kids' generation is getting most of their news from TikTok,
Yep.
Facebook. What else did he say?
Part of it's because that's more accurate than
Something
the
else
media.
that I don't ever, I just don't ever watch it, you know. But that's one. And who is TikTok owned by China?
Yes.
So I don't want to get political. I'm sorry, but you know, we need to be grounded.
Yeah, and it also like it's an
with
algorithm,
information.
so the more it feeds into
Yes.
your view, it becomes an echo chamber.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and then that's just all you hear, and then you don't hear anything else.
Right.
Exactly.
And like everyone's hearing this, and it's like, well, no, you are.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And you can't just stay on one.
Right.
You need to get, oh, this is what everybody else is hearing, this is what I'm hearing, what's the truth?
And also
That means
you
that
go
you're
to
hearing
the-
many of them.
Well, that too.
With
Yes.
the breakdown of family
Word.
Where it all started.
units,
Yeah.
you know, my kids know their family history.